Eros Anita vagyok, jogász.
Hi there, well, welcome to all of you. My name is Anita Eros, I'm a lawyer, and I've been dealing with IT security for like 7 years. Then I was just an undergraduate student at the Pécs Law Faculty, and then I wrote my thesis to the IT department because I thought no one was going to write about IT, so that would be favorably accepted. Therefore, I went to Peter Pop to help me, and then I wrote the thesis, and then I started my legal career in this domain. And this is how I got in touch with IT security, primarily in case of contracting. And also my colleagues were on different projects, therefore they came to me with different questions. I was also involved in realizing certain projects, and therefore I have a hands-on experience on the legal problems that could come up. Let's just now talk about social engineering, which actually is becoming increasingly important. Like how to penetrate without unexpected consequences. Why is it important to talk about that? Now, social engineering is, especially for consultants, a very interesting thing because of their daily activities. No, stepping out from their daily activities, they make very interesting scenarios on how they could lay hands on interesting pieces of information. Now, they can also make certain steps, which steps, however, constitute the breach of law. Therefore, we have to be aware, when realizing such a project, we have to be aware of what sort of protected areas we may enter and what sort of sanctions there could be against us. So how to realize a project in such a way that it would be legal. What are we going to talk about today? First of all, we're going to talk about the definition of social engineering, so that all of us would speak the same language from now on here in this room. And this presentation is going to be about contract for social engineering, so not about the malicious social engineering where we would like to obtain certain advantages for ourselves. We'll also look at the legal boundaries, and we will list the techniques used in social engineering and how these techniques could remain within the domain of legality, and what sort of laws and legislation are the boundary, and then we will also talk about what we get as a result. So let's first look at the definition. Wikipedia says that that social engineering is the act of manipulating people into performing actions or divulging confidential information. Now, People Hacking Camp says that social engineering is the art and science of getting people to comply with your wishes. However, how did this become art and science? Now, social engineering became well known by Kevin Whitnick. This is how the whole thing began. This whole thing began as we know it is always the best bandits. The bandits become the best pilots. Now, this guy was arrested, then he was in prison for 2 years, and also for 2 years he was not allowed to use internet. And then he then established the Meeting Security Consulting. So the guy who formerly was therefore a criminal, used his experience and activity, his experience to turn that into a money-making activity. But once I asked him whether he loved his profession, he said yes, of course he did. He said that yes, we have an activity that could constitute a crime, and then we legalize that, and we are also paid. There are two books. One is The Art of Intrusion, and the art of delusion. Now, what is the objective of the social engineer? The malicious social engineer tries to get unauthorized access to systems and information, or to commit fraud, to try to try to steal identity, and also to disrupt systems or networks. Now, this is what the security advisor or consultant does as well, however, with a different purpose, because we have the good consultants who actually want to show us through these through depicting the loopholes and through depicting the security threats, to show us to what extent our security system is vulnerable, and if we know the vulnerabilities, we know how to act against them and how to eliminate these security shortfalls. As I told you, this presentation is about a contract for social engineering. I'll try to give you a couple of facts and figures. What is important in case of contracts for social engineering, what we have to pay attention to. Now, first of all, it is the contract themselves, the contract itself. The contract is actually constituting a bilateral agreement between ourselves and between the consultant company, and through this the consultant company is authorized to carry out this activity, and this is how an unauthorized or illegal activity becomes legal. What we have to make sure of is that we need to double check the authorization to sign for the company, that is the proxy holding, because in given cases, eventually, we might be carrying out things that are otherwise illegal, and if the contract is not signed by the person authorized to sign for the company, then obviously that statement or waiver is not valid. Now, what is the simplest way to check the signature? We ask for a specimen signature and also an extract of list of companies, and we try to have the contract signed by the party or the person that is nominated therein. Now, this is a technicality. However, the description, whether the description of the task is within the subject of the agreement or it is rather annexed to the agreement, this is just a technicality. Anyway, we need to put down what we are going to do, what the steps and methods and modalities, tools and means of this activity are going to be, who is going to participate, what sort of spaces we might enter, and if the customer also wants this, certain exclusions or certain limitations could be used, like the customer may ask me not to enter certain rooms, certain spaces, or the checkup should not be carried out in certain intervals. Then all of these limitations could be put in here. We know that contracting is prior to starting the audit, and we know that life keeps changing. Therefore, it might very well happen that our scenario changes as well. So we conclude the agreement, and then we start the project, we start the audit, and then certain things and events occur which either change or modify things that had been written down in the contract. Therefore, it is quite useful to keep the project up to date and to have a project manager, which project manager can keep the project up to date and can always have the necessary approval of the customer in order to carry on with the new phases of the project or the phases of the modified project. In case of social engineering audits, there are certain tasks and certain steps. Like, for example, we go around in a certain business center, not a business center, but an office building, and then we're just walking around looking for vulnerabilities, and then it also happens that the information is known, the contract is known by the CEO, the general manager, known by the CIO, but not necessarily known by the security guard. Therefore, it is worthwhile keeping with you, while carrying out the audit, keeping with you a statement signed by the customer, which statement says that you're legally carrying out this activity, and then that you could be released in case the security guard gets you. Now, due to these things, also a POC is important. A POC who is always available should there be any problem in the course of the audit. Should we face difficult situations, then the POC, the point of contact, could be phoned, could be contacted, and that person can help us in such difficult situations. It is also worthwhile to have another substitute for this person should that person not be available.
There are legally protected interests that we must observe despite having authorization to perform the task. Let me name just a couple of these areas that shall not be transgressed because that would go against the law. One is business secrets, protected by civil code, improper market behavior, etc. Cover this area. Disclosing business secrets, unauthorized disclosure, use, of business secrets is prohibited by law. This usually is not a problem with social engineering investigations, because if our contract includes a confidentiality agreement, a confidentiality clause, then then we are authorized to access business secrets. Obviously, we are not to disclose them. But if the customer does not provide, does not allow access to this information, then we should be very careful about what we gain access to. Law protects also the facilities of the party. So if we are not allowed to enter a space explicitly, then we should not enter there. This covers sites, offices, parts of offices like a server room. Let's say the customer does not want us to enter the server room, then we should not do so. However, if we are allowed to do that, then the contract should state that we may access any and all locations of that site. Privacy, usually a problem. When we design our methods for the task, we should take that into account. When we think about what we are going to do, we should then think of how of whether we use personal data, and if we do, how much. Do we need to get permits for using these data, or whether we should, or we should solve the task without having to access personal data. Then logo usage is also protected by trademark law. Goodwill. I don't know how many of you do such investigations, but it's always very important to observe the laws and regulations currently in force, because I may browse laws about my planned activity on the internet, but I may hit on a copy that is a year old and not in force anymore. And also, it's very important that you consider the laws and regulations of the given country you're operating in. What I'm talking about is Hungarian law, but if you're asked to go abroad to another country and do the work there, then you should get informed about the laws and regulations of that specific country and the newest level. What happens if we, despite all of this that I just said, we do cross legal borders? First of all, civil law has sanctions against this. One is damages, where a proof for the relationship between damage and the actions we did must be shown, and obviously there may be criminal law consequences. This young man, like that you see in the picture, you see that he's detained, so he does not work on IT security for a while. In the following, I'll discuss the various sanctions specifically for a couple of things. There are remedies ensured by other legal regulations, like contacting the Ombudsman, the Office for Economic Competition in Hungary, for business competition in Hungary. So let's have a look at the various techniques, one being piggybacking. Piggybacking is the social engineering method where you join a group and with them together enter a space that requires authorization. You join the group, like workers or office staff, and thus avoid or bypass this entrance checking. For instance, you may not anymore work with a specific company, but the security guard does not know this, and since I'm a nice young girl and he knows me, I can say, sorry, I left my card at home, but I need to go in, so could you please allow me in? And he will. In this case and similar cases, there are nothing that is against the laws. It's the security guard not observing security regulations. But going one step further, I may forge entrance cards, taking a sheet of paper, colored pencils, and draw logos and whatever I want, and design a card that would allow me to get in. If I do enter that space using that card, this is then forgery of a private document in under Hungarian law, and if you use a private document that is forged or contains invalid data or not untrue data to access a space or do something, then you are subject to punishment. I am actually trying to prove my right to enter a space I'm not really authorized to enter, and this is this I do using a false document. In cases like this, when you want to use this method, you are advised to ask for a card that is our customer's card that he will activate. Obviously, if he didn't activate it, I could enter any space I want where that card is needed. Then no social engineering would be required. So I get an inactivated entry card. So I'm not using a forged document. It is a real document provided by the customer. Acquiring information or information gathering. This is the essence why social engineering is done, trying to piece together separate bits of data compiled into a system that you can then use to get access to other confidential information. Information gathering could be done, for instance, by going to the customer and passing myself off as a university student. I say that I'm writing my thesis, and I'd like to ask a couple of questions from people working there. Since people are very nice, studies are always supported by people. Universities, what a nice girl. Why not help her? So it may happen that that they give us important and confidential bits of information they should not disclose to third parties. What in these cases? So the question is whether you have cheated with this. Well, in Hungarian law, it is when you lead somebody to believe something in order to gain illegal profits. But obviously, you don't have you don't want to get illegal profit. You have a contract with the customer. And if you get money for what you are doing, then this is why you will get the money, because you have been hired to do exactly what you are doing. Hopefully, you can avoid causing damage, so this is not illegal under Hungarian law. However, a problem may be when I use the personal data of somebody, if I pass myself off as some existing other person who has not authorized me to use his or her data for the purpose of impersonating him or her. If you use that method or use your own personal, then you should use your own personal data or personal data of a non-existing person and compile a persona from these non-existent personal details. Another technique can be when you phone in to the help desk or to customer service or to accounting, and you pass yourself off as somebody else. You impersonate, for instance, the boss of the person who is sitting there, and the person is very afraid of the boss but would like to comply with the boss's requirements and do his or her work well. So that person may divulge to me confidential information based on this false belief. Hungarian law says that if you transgress privacy laws for gaining illegal profit, is liable to up to 1 year prison. So the important thing is for you to use the data of non-existent persons, or if you do pass yourself off as some existent person, like the boss that I mentioned before, or like the IT security manager, then you should have that authorization on you when you do it, because otherwise data protection law, you will be liable to punishment under data protection law. Or another method, you can send in a questionnaire, or you can do that also via the phone. You phone in to, you say, excuse me, I'm from this and this organization, I'd just like to check our customer data. The other end fills in all the data. What the hacker can here do is to hide one or two questions requesting confidential information among a lot of other questions that are totally public data. In this case, if our customer does not authorize us to gain access to any and all of his business secrets, but instead says that you can only access accounting information. So during a social engineering investigation that you're performing, you should only gain access to accounting information. In this case, your permission or authorization is limited, and when you do, in this case, use this questionnaire method, only ask questions about things that you are authorized to get in possession of. Otherwise, you will transgress against the law prohibiting access to business secrets in order to gain illegal profits or to cause somebody else material damage, financial damage. And persons who are said to be subject to this law are subject to up to 3 years prison. Another method is to enter an office space and check the laptops, pen drives, servers in the office, and check if I can take them out of the building together with the information stored on them. In this case, if this method has been approved by the customer and you do have a statement confirming this, then he can say, the customer can say that what I have in my offices you can take with you. But once you're inside, an employee you may find that an employee may be using that equipment for personal uses instead of official uses, and has his or her own personal laptop on the desk. And while you are picking up stuff to take out of the company, you will also pick up a personally owned laptop, and the owner will not be happy. And we may, doing this, actually be doing stealing. Obviously, our intent to illegally acquire is important. Obviously, we can say in this case that we are doing a security audit, and this is part of it. So in order to avoid such misunderstandings, it is better to not take these objects out of the office. Instead, you could put a sticker on them and photograph it, and the sticker says, I could have picked this up and taken it out of the office. And you can then attach these photos to your audit report. Access to the company's network. This has also multiple, there are many ways to do this. For instance, you can find a conference room where you can connect your computer and access the company network, but you could also get into the company get a pen drive into the company that you somehow connect or have connected to a computer to access the network. When you discuss your scenario with the customer, then you should remark that you are going to use this method, but he may not be happy about you collecting his or the company's accounting data or having a look at the invoices. So the customer may not be wanting you to do this, and he may say, "Okay, you can connect to the to my network. If you can prove it, that is enough." So in this case, you should not do more than required. Otherwise, you will transgress a law specifically Criminal Code Section 300C. So you should not exceed the limits of your access authorization. Otherwise, you're subject to imprisonment of up to 1 year. So when you, in this case, connect to the company network, then the only thing that you should report is that you have in fact been able to connect to the company network. Do not start groping around on the network collecting data and, God beware, changing them. So these are the couple of techniques I think are the most frequently used ones in social engineering. We see that, or I hope you could see that we are moving along a very narrow border between legal and illegal, so you have to first study the legislation in force for these activities, decide on what you are going to use, prepare properly for the task, and if you do prepare properly, then you can perform the task without transgressing any legislation. What will be the result? Everybody will be very happy. There will be joy and a warm, fuzzy feeling. Plus, you can submit an audit that is legally okay, is effective, is well documentable and reportable, and you won't run into unexpected, nasty consequences. So if you do all this properly, then you will be moving around in a safe zone, you will be performing a safe audit, remaining within the boundaries of the law, and obviously help the company improve company security or ID security, because if we can map the vulnerabilities, the social vulnerabilities of the company, then we can offer and provide security awareness training, security control policies that will then help the company improve its security. Thank you.